Welcome back to Paddy's Golf Tips. We're here at the Ritz-Carlton Grand Lakes in Florida. We're here for the PNC Championship, and hopefully this will come in useful for me this week, but how to handle pressure.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Padraig Harrington.
I think this resonates with pretty much everybody who really wants to play competitive golf. So essentially everything works some of the time, nothing works all the time. So don't get fooled into the fact if you're doing the right thing, some days it just won't work. Don't worry about it, don't change it, stick to it, okay? Just because something worked once doesn't mean you should rest the rest of your life on the fact that it worked once either. You know, so some people who like to lose their temper, get angry, yeah, they had success once and they keep trying to be that angry person on the golf course. Mightn't work for them again. Now, some people, it might be their personality, so that's fine. But it doesn't necessarily, just because it worked once, doesn't necessarily will work ever again. So probably when it comes to pressure, it's probably best to stick with the general ideas that the best of the psychologists, sports psychologists have used over the years, because they've obviously had the best track record in this. Okay, so essentially, I have seen people use the craziest of ideas to handle pressure on the golf course. Bit harsh maybe that saying the craziest ideas, but we can all remember Louis Oosthuizen winning the Open at St Andrews by looking at a red dot in his hand. It worked. Clearly it doesn't work every day, or else everybody would be doing it. So what really is going on there? Well, essentially, if you believe in anything when it comes to pressure, it will work. Positive and negative. So people who are superstitious, it will work if they believe in it, and it will work terribly against them if they believe in it and it fails. So if, you know, if they have to wear their lucky socks and whatever reason they lose one, you know, it can work against you having superstitions. So I don't advocate superstitions, but I will actually tell you what's going on when it genuinely works. What any of these thoughts do when you're working is people believe in it and they focus on that just alone. It's the familiarity and the comfort of one thought that's actually working. So ideally, when it comes to handling pressure, we're going to have a routine that leads to one thought, and that's it. Every time, forever. If it doesn't work, you can't change to another thought, you've got to stick with it. Now that's the hard part. So we've seen some great players over the year use different swing thoughts. You know, a lot of players will have said when they get under pressure, they just try and take the club away. First 12 inches, nice, low, slow. If that's what you do every time, that will work for you. Colin Montgomery was great. He used to just feel like, I just wanted to complete my backswing under pressure. Brilliant. But the key here is he went back to that every time he was under pressure. So he didn't try something new. He didn't try and make a bigger backswing. He didn't try and make a shorter backswing. He didn't try and make a faster backswing. He just tried to complete the backswing. So it's all about familiarity when it comes to handling pressure. So we want to have a good, solid routine at the end, not necessarily at the start. So your routine can vary at the start. It's the last moment of the routine that we want that comfort and familiarity. So a couple of ways to do it. I would suggest to you that when you're in the middle of a practice session and you kind of start daydreaming, you've phased out, that's probably your ideal rhythm of a routine when you're not really thinking about it. I know for myself, I can count through my routine. It's 1, 2, go on every shot. Now what's interesting is I can't count out loud doing it. I can only count in my head because that's the rhythm I go at. So every time I hit my routine, which is the ideal way of handling pressure, but again, the routine is to lead you to a point, okay? It doesn't really matter what's going on in the routine as long as it leads you to that end point. So my routine is I assess the shot, I decide what challenge I'm going to take on. You know, maybe I'm going to hit it 3-wood, maybe I'm going to hit driver. You know, maybe I'm going to hit it in the rough because I'm trying to avoid the water on the left. You know, there's a lot of options. Eventually I pick an option. I pick my targets. I like to pick a number of targets like goalposts, and then I pick a target in the middle. Okay, I've got that. Then I line up, and every shot for me is 1, 2, and go. So every shot is 1, 2, go. Now, when I start practicing technical, and you'll find this if you're into your, when you start practicing technical, your mind gets very active. Even me talking through that, I've struggled to go through the actual rhythm of that routine. So when your mind gets active, your left brain stuff, all of a sudden you're running through a checklist. You're running through a checklist is not your normal rhythm. And that's when you start choking under pressure, when you start getting careful and running through a checklist. Again, some players would have at that stage, everything resets to the takeaway. Another player like Monty finished the backswing. Another player could be tucked the right elbow, whatever works for you. But you've got to continually use it. You can't try and improve it. You can't try and make it better. You just got to do it. And a great way, if you're really stuck with pressure, is just count through your routine. So for everybody going, for me, as I said, it was 2. I'm going to do it out loud, even though out loud is not as good for me because it's a little slow in that sense. So for me, I pick my target. Always line up from behind. It's very difficult to line up from the side. It's very hard to pick out your target walking up this way. It's much easier to walk in here. I've picked my target, and I can count through this. So I line up, 1 touch, 2 touch, and go. It was 1, 2, 3. Every time for me, it's 1, 2, 3. I'll do that in my own head now. A little easier for me to do it. Try not to talk this time. Just like so. So I can count through that and check that my rhythm is the same. 1, 2, go. Everybody should know their count, and everybody should keep going back to their count and check on that to make sure that they're sticking to it and they're not getting caught out with too many thoughts. But the biggest key to pressure is that whatever you're going to do, you know you're going to do it before you step up. We were taught this as kids. I remember Howard Bennett, my old national coach, and it was so important. You pick your shot, you decide on the shot. The minute you step forward, you never change your mind. That was the biggest key. So as you walk in, you don't decide to hit it harder. You don't decide to hit it further right. You don't decide to worry about the water left or the wind off the right. You've made all those decisions. The minute you step forward, you're not allowed to introduce anything new. You get over the golf ball and you go back to that one familiar thought. For me, I work on Bob Rotella's stuff, so it's always the target. And by keep going back to the target, that brings comfort and familiarity to me, which is what is handling pressure. The person who doesn't handle pressure is getting up over the golf ball. They've picked their target, then they get there, oh, don't hit it left. Maybe slow down, you're a bit quick on the last one. Yeah, keep your head down. Oh yeah, make sure you make a full turn. All these things running through is scrambling your brain. Pick one, stick to it, and that's what handling pressure is. The familiarity of what you're doing and not mixing it up by introducing. Even good new thoughts are no use. New is bad when it comes to handling pressure. Old thoughts, no matter how bad they are, as long as you're familiar, will bring comfort, and stick to that. So it's always, when it comes to handling pressure, stick to what you know, stick to what's familiar, and make sure you stay in that cadence, that routine. You should know that. For me, 1, 2, go.